اوكي، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. What I'm going to address today is just the 42 replies we got from the people who answered the survey. We had 102 replies. So what I did, I went to the main side of the replies and addressed it one by one, and then everyone I address, I say the percentage answered by the sisters, and then we will have some discussion about it, inshallah. So, reported causes of divorce, Quran and Hadith prevention used, stories of similar complaints, time of the Sahaba and Tabi'in, and discussion, inshallah, and we close. So, incompatibility in living, 59% of men reported that, and 45% of women. The number of women is much less because the number of women in the survey is 58. The number of brothers are 44. So it's more men reported that. Whatever they meant, we didn't actually break down because we didn't know that's coming to become a number one item. So we didn't have any breakdown. But I assume, one is tidy, the other one is messy, the one is stingy, the other one is generous, and one is too religious versus not committed, punctual, disciplined versus time wasting, disorganized, absorbed by work versus house centered. And we don't know. That could be another survey to say when you feel your marriage is incompatible, what do you mean? So looking into the history, Umar ibn Khattab wanted to marry Kulthum, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And he sent to her sister Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she was very pleased. And she went to Sayyidah Aisha to her niece, to her sister, sorry, to Bashiruha, to give her the good news that Umar ibn Khattab wanted to marry Kulthum. And she said to her, what can I do with Umar? He's man, he's harsh, strong, he's super jealous. He only concerned about what's in his head and people. And I'm a young lady, I want a man who will pour love on me, in bulks. So Aisha didn't know what to say to Omar to reply. So the most famous politician at that time in between the Muslims was Amr ibn al-As. I used to go to the leaders and things, and he had a lot of skills. So she told him this story, and he said, leave it to me. And he went to Umar ibn Khattab and he said, why don't you get married? He said, yeah, by the way, I'm getting married. He said, who? He said, Kulthum. He said, you don't want this lady. Her father died and she's weeping day and night and not going to please you, not going to, then you don't have time. I think. He said to him, have you spoken to Aisha? He said, yes. So, no compatibility. And he said, no, okay, I'm not going to marry her. Abu Darda was visited by Salman al-Farsi. When the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina, he made every two families or two brothers, one from Medina, one from Mecca. So Salman al-Farsi was in brotherhood, status with Abu Darda. And he came to visit Abu Darda, and he found that Darda was not dressed nicely, she wasn't looking after herself, and she wasn't actually. And then Abu Darda made the food and brought it to him. So Salman Farsi said, eat, and Abu Darda said, no, I'm fasting. And then he said, you must eat. You can't get, obviously, nafil, it wasn't Ramadan. So he sat and ate with him. And then it came the time to sleep, and Abu Darda started praying at night. He said, no, you have to sleep. No, you have to sleep. And he slept. And before Fajr, he woke him up, and they both prayed Tahajjud. And then he said to him that your Lord have rights from you, and your body have rights from you, and your family have rights from you. So give each one his rights. So Abu Darda went to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, mentioned to him, and he said to him he was Sadaqa Salman. He was telling the truth. And this hadith in Sahih Bukhari. So you have to get the compatibility addressed before you get married. Is he compatible to me? I'm after a young man, marry me, go away on holiday, this and that. Omar is praying at night and running after the affair of the country during the day. It's not her type, so they didn't marry him. This is another long story. This is the story of Zara' to Zara'. And Aisha was telling the story to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and she said there were 11 women who met, and each one promised to tell the truth about her husband. And Zara' told the truth about her husband, Abu Zara'. And she said, Abu Zara', he filled me with joy, and he fed me till I became really strong. And he found me in a people في أهل غنيمة فشق فجعلني في أهل سهيل. He made her famous. And ومنه فعنده أقول he never told me anything bad. He never belittled me. And when I sleep, I wake up and he's already prepared the drink for me. And Abu Zara', she mentioned also his characters. And then she said Abu Zara' was away out, that he cherished her, he looked after her, he was serving her. And then he went outside and she saw a woman with 2 children running around her, and he admired her, and he divorced Zara' and he married this woman. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said to her, I am to you like Abu Zara' to Zara', but I don't divorce. But I don't divorce. And I will not divorce you in another narration. That's in Bukhari and Muslim. So compatibility is very important. The Prophet ﷺ said, إياكم وخضراء الدمن. قالوا ما خضراء الدمن يا رسول الله؟ قال المرأة الحسناء في المنبت السوء. Avoid the woman which is stunningly beautiful and she dressed and and makeup and everything, but her upbringing was evil. She's really bad. You might be attracted to her beauty, but you might not find her. So our youngsters, before they get married, they really need to see where they are getting, what sort of person they are marrying, the husband or the wife, both. And Kabada was saying he had to be prepared. He had to be prepared to reduce his expectation as well, otherwise he will hit a brick wall. And Allah Azza wa Jal said this ayah, when we came to irreconcilable differences in goals, 59 of the men said the woman, my wife, have no goals in life or different goals, wouldn't accommodate his goals. And surprisingly 19% of women found that as a problem. So men found that if the woman doesn't actually accommodate his goals, he just take off and go. And 59% of the men, which means around from the 44 is 24.
When you talk about goals in your survey, did you talk about exactly what their goals
That's the question was. Only question, irreconcilable. No, I didn't make a breakdown.
Because it was interesting to know what sort of goals.
That will be, as I said, with the first one, you need to break down. And usually survey people, if it's so long, they will just not fill it. Yeah, that could be another survey.
It's either financial or spiritual or whatever. It's just that they're not on the same page.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, it's all good in hindsight. Maybe they should have discussed that at the start.
Yeah, I mentioned last time Abada when he went to see a lady, a Syrian lady. I mean, we know her father and her mother, but she wanted to do her PhD and she wants to go to Liverpool. Has to sacrifice with a lot of things, so she took the goal as my goals are important. It's good they discuss the goals, but the problem before they get married or get engaged, they don't discuss the goals. And then she finds out, oh, this husband is not really after me. He's traveling, he's flying here, flying there. Football is very important to him. And here I am stuck with somebody. I'm just running around after him like a servant, trying to catch up. And like the film you showed us last time, she was trying to make things for his sake, or he loves it. When it comes to things he has to sacrifice for, he didn't want even to hear about it. So in the Quran, Allah said, وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Yes, you should have goals in this life and you should aim to achieve it and not forget or plan for the hereafter, and don't forget your share in this life. And if you go and somebody have no goals in life, probably you need to also move on, not get engaged, because she has no ambition to do anything. We went to see a lady. I'm not going to talk about which son of my sons, but we went. She doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know what she's going to do. Graduated now, and you have a profession. What are you going to do with it? Then we said, okay, goodbye. We arrived 2 o'clock. The appointment was 2 o'clock in Manchester. We left Birmingham. We arrived 2 o'clock on the clock. And opened the doors. Oh, I never imagined that you will arrive on time. I said, this is the first time in my life somebody complained arriving on time. People complain that you are late. So, and we gave it a miss. And then we had another Syrian family who went to see the same lady, the same family, and asked him what was the result. He said they don't know where they're going. The whole family don't know. So not only us took off, there's somebody else also to just give it a miss. So you need to have a goal, but you need to address it before you get engaged. When you are married, and probably they might develop a goal after marriage, then it had to be discussed, had to be planned for and agreed for. Otherwise, you start going one direction, the wife's going different direction. But that's an issue. That's an issue. You need always to revive it, and you need to look into it in your family. And the Prophet ﷺ said,
it's a good point actually, because I think as you kind of progress in the years through a marriage, you know, new ambitions arise, whether it's for the male or the female. You know, careers take off in a different direction, and actually, I think it's a balance between accommodating that and recognizing actually there are there are responsibilities that need to be. But, you can maybe shift the responsibilities to accommodate for that new kind of, let's say the wife has got a new kind of promotion or something, so to accommodate for that, then you have to kind of help out a little bit more or something.
yeah, that's right. I've seen many people, the minute they start becoming more ambitious and have more activities, they split. Because the wife cannot accompany him and manage. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Talabul ilmi, acquiring knowledge, is a farad, obligatory on every Muslim, male and female. And if you present this knowledge and ability to somebody who is not capable to handle it, you will be like the one who is giving the jewelry and the pearls and the gold to put it in the neck of his wife." So you need really from the start, if you are going to be really more ambitious, get your wife to get more ambitious in her field, her like something. So because otherwise you will find yourself as far away and the wife's still there at home. Oh, you left me with the kids, I'm just bored and things, and so the problem starts. But it is reported by the people, not me saying it. 59 of the men said that, and 19. And why? That's also need investigation, because why the wife doesn't see the goals is important. They didn't actually report it. That came down, and now if you look, sorry, just quickly, if you look into the list I gave you on your handout, you could say which one is actually for the wife. For the men is actually number 2. For the women is number 11. Down in the middle. Sorry, sister.
No, I was just kind of thinking about goals as such. Sometimes people's goals are also questionable, isn't it? As into what are they seeking? Because excess of anything is a problem.
Yeah.
Because again, that might be an issue for somebody if they become dependent on their work, for instance. There are actually people who are workaholics.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah. For us, we're trying to say to the people here and outside, we'll inshallah publish it, that look into this. This could be a cause of breaking your marriage. So you need to address it before you get engaged, after you get engaged, when you get married, after you get married, after you have children. Because sometimes the husband left with more time, and then he starts getting more on his plate, and the wife busy with the children, and there will be a long gap between them. And I mean, he can't even take her with him to meeting or. I showed my wife's picture once when I was in Nottingham to my secretary. Oh, she said, "Oh, she's so pretty. Why don't you bring her to meetings?" to our parties and things. So, but sometimes if the husband is so high in his job, he might even deliberately, oh no, she's a servant in my house, she's a cleaner. That would cause the split. So that it is reported by men. It's not reported by women as such. Although there are 58 women, only 19% of them said the goal issue was a splitting reason. Incompatibility of romance, you guessed it, women spot it very quickly. 40% of them said the husband lacked romance. He doesn't know. And that's in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal will create the love and care between the husband and wife, and they should aim at that. I don't know when you really become deeply in love with your wife or your husband, but I remember when I got married, 1 week in Damascus, and we stayed 2 days in Jordan. Then we went to Riyadh. From the first week, I found that I'm really, I'm loving this lady, and started doing things and take her out, and so, and you ask Allah for that, because the love between them, if lack of love will split them. Because what makes them together is the love. What split them is lack of love. They no longer love me. It will come later also. That's the wife doesn't love me anymore, or the husband doesn't love me anymore. It is a splitting factor. You need to address it. You need really to look into this love. Is it there? And keep it alive. Give it nourished. Because it came in the survey, splitting. It's a splitting cause. We are 70, we are 60, we are. Okay, inshallah. I'm trying to get topics which really benefit the community, because yesterday we were talking about the last item. The hijab, you start, the khimar and jilbab start when you are young, but are you allowed to take it off? In the Quran, yes. والقواعد من النساء اللاتي لا يرجون نكاحا. Those qawaid, more disabled women who are old and they are no longer after marriage, they can't drop their hijab. But when you go to the tafsir, none of them actually touched it from the psychiatric point of view. When they become demented, forgetful, unable to walk and things, they're not going to have the same strict rules like the younger 2018, So we need to address old age issue, inshallah. So this is the incompatibility and the Prophet ﷺ never forgot Khadija. He always remembered her, and he always used to give pieces of meat, whatever he has, qurbani, whatever, to her friends. And Aisha used to try to calm him down. No, you've still got, you've got me. And he said, no, you're not like Khadija. She was and was and was, and I had the children from her. So he never forget, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he never forgot his wife, Khadija, radiyallahu anha. So that has to be cherished. That's came number 3 in sisters. No, number 2 in the sisters. And it came number 3 in the brothers. So it's more or less similar. Cherish the love, otherwise you will find yourself unable to. So this is the translation. Again, there is another hadith. Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah, now khataba imra'atan, he got engaged to a woman, and the Prophet ﷺ said to him, look at her, because it is better that you enjoy the meals together. You need to look at her many times until you say, oh, that's my love, that's what's going to be the two of us. And he said that to another Sahabi, try to see from your engaged lady what will tempt you to marry her. So unfortunately, a lot of Muslim countries, they just ban you. I mean, I saw 3 ladies before I got married. One's 16 years old, and I was 27. The only thing I remember, she has long hair to here. I didn't see any personality there on it. The second one, I sat here. They had a big, long lounge. I sat here, and she sat at the end of it. And I needed the binoculars to... And then he said, my daughter is a closed mushaf. She's a Quran closed. If you take her to Britain, might affect her, whatever. Go do your postgraduate study in Britain and come back, and she will be waiting for you. And subhanAllah, she married to America. The third one is my wife. So, but it is the Prophet ﷺ insisted you should see that there is a love going really to be created between the two of us, and I will cherish her. So when you go to the next item, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, control issue.
Just on the issue of romance and Sister as well, particularly maybe. So, I mean, that's before marriage, but what's romance, at different stages? What is love?
Every stage has its own romance, and you have to discover. I mean, I'm now in the seventh age of man. Every age has different level of romance, and you need to find out. And no harm of reading books. I read a lot of books on, psychology books and the relationship and emotion things. It's part of my specialty as well. But I was keen to discover what will make my wife happy at this age, with the children, without the children. I mean, remember when Talha, the last child we have, went to London to study. Marwan and Hanadi were already in Nottingham, and Abada was in Birmingham. Left me and my wife again, the two of us. Then that's a phase need to cope with, and then my wife reacted a bit and said, "Oh, I have to stop now and think. I can't talk the same way I was talking when my children was around, and I can't do things which have to be changed gear." So every stage of your life you have to change gear. And this is, you need to cherish the love. The late father-in-law of my daughter, Abu Khudr, may Allah bless his soul, he died here. We celebrated his diamond anniversary. He took us out for a meal, and he spoke about how he cherished his wife and how he always, one of the things would come later, lack of communication. And he said he used to sit and say, "You talk to me, tell me, what do you want to say?" Most men don't listen. But he said he always, obviously he's got 9 children and they're all professionals, and so, well, I admired that from him, that he sit and listen to her. Control issue came from the women more, and still in the main. And in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. So they have equal right and equal responsibility, and no one bosses the other one. Like the card you said, you have to divide equally with good intention, that I don't take the easy jobs and give her the hard job, and I don't try to be controlling. The control here in this ayah, Allah said He gave the men one step. The next ayah, why the one step? Because Allah said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض بما أنفقوا من أموالهم. You have the leadership issue to be caring and taking care of and helping, because you spend on the wife, on the husband, on the home, because what Allah gave you, the step, and because what you spend. So the husband who doesn't spend on the wife, he cannot have any authority over her. He loses the control. He loses, we call it qiwama in Quran. Allah said qawwamuna. Qawwam means ready to jump and do things. They took it a boss order. It's different between a boss ordering and a guy who is ready to do this and do that. Like we had a leak in our bathroom, and we were changing the bathroom anyway. So I didn't actually fix it. And then I had to fix it. Alhamdulillah, I mean, the leak stopped very quickly. So I'm a hero for my wife. But it's my, she won't do it. I will have to jump and do it. There's many jobs like this, and you're qawwam, meaning you do the majority of the things, you jump into doing it, and the control issue will reduce.
Can I ask the question that obviously the reality for a lot of modern Muslim households is that two people are bringing more or less the same income in, and in some cases women are better paid in terms of the work job that they're working in, and so by default the conditioning that they receive, their education and the training or whatever, means that they often come away from that mindset in terms of understanding what their default role has to be, and that generates a lot of conflict really. When you say the man has to spend, the understanding with that is that the man has more to spend because the woman is either working part-time or she's not working. So how do we reconcile that, and how do we practically implement that understanding then? Because the role that, and that's the reality of a lot of young girls that we,
because in the past people didn't cost the work the wife does in the house. If you cost it, like we asked about the what's the question was, um, value for money.
Oh yeah.
What's the value for money coming here? And some of you gave us 10 out of 10, some of you gave us 5 out of 10 value for money. But when you come to the wife and husband, the husband, if he's intelligent, he will value the work of the wife in money. And if he does that, it will be like twice as much saving on the family, like, what he's spending on that. So, because imagine if she goes to work, and many of you who works, they know you need childminder, you need babysitter, you need nursery to send your children, you need somebody to collect them, somebody to stay with them till you come back from work, and all these costs that you will find that she is spending more on the house. When you go and they're both working, then the costing will be different, but still she's putting a lot of into the house. When the Prophet ﷺ divided the job between Ali and Muawiyah, his daughter, it was that Ali was I didn't start that, it's okay. Ali to work outside the house with consensus of both of them, and she works inside the house. So the Prophet ﷺ costed her work inside the house. And when she came to complain and she went to the servant, he taught her to say Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 33 times, because she's already doing the job in the house and Ali doing the job outside the house. If you want to bring her a servant, then she will be doing nothing, and the scale will be unbalanced. But the qiwama in Islam, that the woman from the engagement phase, she has to accept that, yes, you have this step. Whether I contribute half, it's her agreement. Each couple have to find out whether they're competing and they're contributing half and half. But the ayah, لَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, they have equal right and equal responsibility. So it is in Surah Baqarah 228. They have equal. So you cost the work in the house and cost the work outside the house in money, and see where the middle is, and see where many of my patients used to say, oh, he spent all his money on his hiking and climbing mountains and bikes and motorbikes and things, and that's unbalanced the situation. But you need to cost them, I think. You go to the next topic, which is too much conflict and argument, and this beautiful hadith, many Muslims don't actually understand it, because the Prophet ﷺ said the woman created from a rib, and they said there was a rib of Adam. It wasn't cloned from Adam. She was created a type of Adam, but given an extra rib. And many of you probably heard me saying this. A man has X, Y. They have 46 chromosomes, and the woman have 46 and a half. So she has that rib, and that's what makes her a woman. And that gives her the woman features and ability to be a bit more emotionally, more kind, more this. She had more chromosomes, and you can't change her. You cannot make her a man. So the Prophet ﷺ said, take her as she is, enjoy your life with her, and don't try to straighten her your way, otherwise you break her, and the breakage is divorce. So if you try to straighten her your way, you end into divorce, because she has their own personality. You cannot change what has been decided by Allah Azza wa Jal at the time of conception. And there's nothing to do with the man created, what Eve created from Adam, nothing to do with her. It's just she has extra rib, extra chromosomes, and you can't just ignore it. And that's what, unfortunately, the country now, this LGBT, they're making things really muddled them. And too much conflict. قال رسول الله ما استفاد المؤمن بعد تقوى الله. The best you can benefit from after being faithful to Allah Azza wa Jal and believing in Him is a righteous woman. If you order her, she takes the notice. When you look at her, it makes you happier. And if you ask her something, she will fulfill it. She will be concerned, fulfill what you ask. And if you are away from her, she will be guarding herself and your property and your money. And that you need to discuss it before you get engaged, after you get married. But you always can go back to Sharia, because Sharia, whether you are married last week or married 20 years ago, you can always go back to the Sharia. You can always say the Quran and Sunnah our guide. So who is our problem solver will be the Quran and Sunnah, and come back to this. And vice versa, the husband has to be as well.
You know that I don't understand what it says about swears an oath concerning her. She fulfills it. What does that mean?
أقسم عليها برته. If he said to her, like, I don't want you really to visit so and so,
Oh, okay.
she will not, he's not there, I can't see me.
Oh.
And many things happen because she ignored his red line. He has a red line. And
can I just also say that with this for younger ones, the language, and I wonder whether there's something we can do about the language. So this thing about obedience and servitude and the way young people are raised now and they understand. I don't know what you think about that, Dr. Fernand, but in a relationship, everyday life is defined in terms of nothing is given, right? You can't say men deserve this or whatever. Every day, women have to work less days. So the default position of obedience in that, even if cognitively people don't behave that way.
But
You have to earn respect.
yeah, the thing is that what I'm trying here to say that you have a default. You go back to the default. What's that? Or reset. The factory reset is the Quran. So Allah expected you to do this, and Allah as a wife, and expecting him to do this as a husband. So we did Hadith Zara, how he was charging her, feeding her, taking her there, and Muhammad, he said to her, I come to you like Abu Dhara to Zara, but I don't divorce. I will not divorce you. So he was saying, he expects us to be like this, to the wife to be like this. So you need to take Sharia all together. People take one ayah, one hadith and run with it.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Absolutely. No, you're right.
So
are you saying this word obey? Are you saying like old-fashioned?
It's a nuanced thing, isn't it? I wonder why I speak about how babies, what do you think?
now, yeah.
I mean, I see this in my household, that's why I'm just wondering.
Obey, I think, is very, very much a very strong word, yeah, like it has like negative connotation to it, yeah.
But it's like a Quranic.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say that the young generation now, how that wording, how that's perceived, it goes totally against what the young generation are taught now, in terms of especially girls and guys, especially emphasis on girls now. That's not equal. It doesn't sound equal. So when they perceive that, when they see that, then what they've been taught is that it totally goes with what they've been told. So that's why you're trying to how do you get that message across that it's not negative?
Yeah, it's not negative, of course not.
Yeah, not like what I said. You can't take one hadith over there. Because there's the one coming soon. How was the Prophet ﷺ with his family? And Aisha said he used to be serving his family. Exactly. And when the call of the prayer takes place, he become like if we never met him, he never met us. We just go to pray. But you say, oh, you have to obey me. Have you been doing what Muhammad ﷺ was doing in his house? So too much argument. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That's you have to be nice and treat them nicely and kindly. And if you dislike them, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, you might dislike something, but Allah will bring a lot of goodness out of it. I was talking to a husband and he said, yes, my wife was a bit difficult in this end, but on the other end, she made us rich. So he was lucky he didn't divorce her when the first time, clashed. Be patient, and then you find that, she has a lot of good things, and brought to the family, although there's things you didn't like. And for psychological abuse came more from women than men, and Allah Azza wa Jal criticized that in the Quran, that you don't force them, you don't use psychological methods to get rid of them and take their money or take their children. It comes several times in the Quran that husbands are not allowed to psychologically torture the wife to get away with part of the money or their obedience or their service or whatever. So it's quite stressed in the Quran. And psychological abuse also, that you have, even if you want to have intimate relationship with the wife, you have to prepare for it. You have to give her things in advance, and the gifts, and you cherish her, you praise her, you do this and that, and you do foreplay as well in Islam. So you have to prepare, like propose to your wife every day. You want to sleep with her, really, it's not like a property, your car. You can drive your car anytime you want. Domestic violence came also from women more than men, although there's 7, which is 3 men here complained of domestic violence, but 7 women. And the Prophet ﷺ, he was asked about what's the right of the wife on any of us. He said to feed her when you eat, to dress her when you dress, and never hit the face, and never say to her she's ugly. Women don't like to be told about their weight or age or getting old and things. The Prophet ﷺ banned that. You can't pick on any disadvantage on the woman, and if you want to keep distance, you just abandon her in the house. You can't go to your mom, or you can't go on holiday or southern trip or something. Domestic violence, again, and Aisha radiallahu anha said that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never hit a servant, never hit a woman, and never hit with his hand at all. So yeah, they go to the ayah in the Quran. If you think that a woman is going to commit adultery, they say وَضْرِبُوهُنْ, hit them, while your Prophet never hit anybody. So are you following the Sunnah of the Prophet or not? Who brought the Quran? Allah through Muhammad. Who brought the Sunnah? Allah through Muhammad. The same. So he never hit a woman, never hit a servant.
That ayah of Surah Nas, this has been, I think, rather infamous, especially amongst Islamic worlds, and especially in anti-Islam. Actually, as a young boy, one of my first decisions to start taking my religion seriously and to study was when I was confronted with the ayah from my friend.
Yeah, I straight away bring this hadith to them. Yeah, are you following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or following your own like and dislike? You pick and choose. So Allah Azza wa Jalla said to Muhammad, أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ. We've sent you the book, so you explain to people what have been sent to them. So you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you explain to them how to bring this ayah into practice. And when they went into studying that ayah, they only say if she tried, like if she brought a man to the house, then the husband, she wouldn't listen to him. She said, get in. No, he's not coming to my house with her. Only when it becomes to adultery, committing adultery. But not, she didn't cook, she put the chair there, and she didn't buy this from Safeway, she bought it from Sainsbury. There's no Safeway now. When we came here, they would say, yeah. So, not marrying, carrying weight into the marriage, and that came from both, 23% and 26%. And the ayahs we read before, they have equal right and responsibility, both. And the daraja of qiwama is just to be rush you rush first. Knock on the door, you rush first, find out. There's a breaker, you rush first. You're qawwam, you're in charge. So, but you're not in charge, a boss, and your wife is an employee. No, you are the one who will take the responsibility first. Like the Prophet ﷺ, once they heard a sound, everybody came out of the house and they saw the Prophet ﷺ coming back on his horse without saddle. So he was the first to go, find out where the sound came from. So that's you need to address. And Fatima, I mentioned this hadith before, that She wanted a servant. You are the in charge, you are the leader, now give me a servant. But you already divided the work between you and Ali. And he said, shall I teach you better? They say, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Many in rich Arab country now, they have 2 or 3 servants and drivers and things, and that bring them a lot of problems.
I just wanted to make a point, kind of thinking about what you say. It's, mashallah, such a beautiful concept.
Which one?
All your points are beautiful, mashallah.
Single one.
The one that you just made about the man understanding this whole thing, being the first one, doing something, and that's such an empowering place, isn't it? That you are proactive and you don't feel emasculated, because I think a lot of times what goes wrong is that when the woman has to do this, do that, what that does to the man is he feels that he's losing that muqam or that role. But if he was proactive and he just did it anyway, because he's a man, he can, and Allah wants him to do this, that's a bigger role, isn't it?
When it comes to the wife asking him and he failed the qawama, he should have done it himself before he asked.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
a man came to one of the pious people in the past and asked him for help extra. So he gave him some money. He went inside and gave him some money, and they came back crying. And his wife said, why are you crying? He said, because his guy came and asked me for money. And he gave him money. He said that you were aware of his needs and gave him the money before he comes to ask for it. The wife, like you were saying, she nagged him 10 times, 20 times to do it, and he never done it. Then there will be a fight. Well, it should be the beginning, that there is this problem in the house, I'll do it. The bug starts with me. That's it.
Too much pressure on you guys?
I think it's a very good one. I think you're absolutely right.
What about married people?
But I honestly feel that I've seen couples where they don't lose respect is when they are into with
They don't act as they fail to act as qawwam. He's ready to do the things. He loses the wife. Not actually that guy before his wife asked him, he already done it. While after then he complained of nagging. Sorry.
Sorry, I just have to mention that we talk about balance, and mashallah, the Quran teaches us a lot that the man is a protector. I think with the generations that we're seeing, it's a balance. I also believe that women have got to have a limit of what they sort of need. It's not like you need to do this, just because I'm over earning more than you. Then there's no respect in this kind of relationship. So I think women also need to understand the limit of what they are asking from the husband, because too much pressure, as life changes, it might be too much pressure for him to fulfill all the time.
You have always to remember X, Y, X. 2 different creatures in a way. There's so extra chromosomes, there's extra things in the woman. And the man cannot become a woman. And the woman cannot become a man. So you have to make a room for him. He's a man, he's always like this. He's a man, he will be like this. You have to find a middle ground. And the Quran, there's a lot in that, as I said,
You see it in a lot, through sort of work aspects. You see it a lot with the younger generation, that the expectation of the female has all of a sudden gone, but my husband needs to do all this, to make sure I look. The expectation is too high. And there's a lot of pressure now on the men.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's because they are not actually dividing the balance. They're not saying you do it, cost it. Like, cost what you do with money. Like, I wrote a card to my wife. She's a nurse, she's a cook, she's a driver, and she got children bring back and do this. It became like a big list of jobs. Another hadith, and I told you earlier, what was he doing? She said he was serving his family. When the salah takes place, he goes out of the salah. So he will be serving and helping his family. He used to keep himself busy helping members of his family, and when it's time for the prayer, he just go. And Sa'alat Aisha, she was asked what the Prophet ﷺ was doing. What was that job? Said he was stitching things, he was repairing his shoes, he was dressmaking and stitching and patching. So he was doing things usually women do, we think. But this Riyadh, it's not like you only do this job, I will never do it. There's a lot of discussions in my family now, and who should change the nappy of the child. And my wife adamant, there's no way the husband has to change the nappy. And they kept asking her, have we got a hadith? Who proved that? But she acted like this. I've never ever, I've 4 children, I've never changed a nappy of any of them. No, her sister said the same. She had two sisters born. Listen, Obada, listen, Talha. But that's not, I mean, my daughter, her husband changed the nappies, my children.
I think that's a generational.
But that's cultural.
Yeah.
In Damascus.
Yeah.
It's not cultural in Solihull. So it won't work. So I said to her, if you have a Quran or Hadith, we all with you. If you don't have the Quran or Hadith, you're forcing culture of Damascus on Solihull and doesn't
I
work.
think her point is, in terms of like the intimate nature of looking after. I know, in modern Britain we kind of look, in the modern world we both kind of chip in, but it's kind of the mother is usually the one who.
No, I think that's roles are expected of us, but I don't think it's women should do this. And
It's about the intimate nature. You're looking at the beginning of the child. It's not something you expose to everybody and anyone. It's training the child from a young age to say, look, just keep this to your mum.
Yeah, the other things about that Allah has mentioned in the Quran and the Prophet in the Hadith. There's a culture different from country to country. From
The aura of what the.
yeah, it's no mention. There's no mention that the father can change nappies, but you're not supposed to.
I think I'm not something that you were doing something. So and obviously, if the woman is in the last 2 years, let's say she's born, but she's in a break from work or whatever, and she happens to be home most of the time, she's breastfeeding or whatever. So she's doing it because it's comfortable, it's easy. But it becomes a problem when the person cannot do it because they feel they can't do it. A lot of men just find it is, oh, I can't do nappies or whatever. That becomes a problem because then you're You're absolutely right. If your close activity comes around the time, so I think we obviously teach that so early on terms of children who's safe, that's very important. But what it does to the dynamic is I think you can do that, I don't have to do that. That's the
So I think it's not, it's not coming at it from the point of view of what a man actually do.
Yeah.
It's coming at it from, this is kind of, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old child, someone else, you have that. So it's just kind of limiting the exposure of their very intergenic idioms.
That works for both, my brother. And the thing is that if it was,
why is the mother changing the boy then? Yeah, why to change the boy?
if it was important, it would have been mentioned in the Hadith or Quran. That it is this should be discussed within the couple themselves, who is actually able and free to do this, while the other one is unable physically to be there and do it. So they have no choice. That's how.
I think that sometimes more so two people like they both like what if the mother is ill and she has over a week or whatever. That's not so much. 100% securely attached to their fathers as well.
Yeah, let us hang on with that. We still have. Yeah, that's okay. We need the discussion. We need the interaction. Irreconcilable differences in parenting style. The one you're just talking about. So that's more that's everybody's style to stick to it. It come to me and my family from the same style, okay. But when you come out in different countries, different background, different things, you have to create for your style and her style. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the style that probably I won't find it anymore. We're gone. That's of the summer wine, they say. So this is caused problem. That there's differences in parenting style and similar. The men 20% and the women 17%. But you have to look into the style and you have to adjust it. Otherwise, that could break the marriage. What else could there? Yeah. الوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين. I brought this as an example that women expected to breastfeed for 2 years. The Quran said they are expected, not forced. So there's women who I don't want to breastfeed, I just want to use bottles. Islam doesn't force one to breastfeed their son. And if there's no milk to buy, like if you are 700 years old, no milk to buy, they say employ a lady to breastfeed. There's no obligation on the wife even to breastfeed. So that's the respect her style. She doesn't want to do this. You have to cater for somebody to do it for you. Style also when you come to two different religions, one is not taking religion as important. Point this hadith that the family have input into what the child believes or not believe. And then the style in Islam expected that you teach him how to pray and force him to pray. The boom here comes again. The market was hit with the collapse of the family. Then nobody went to the market and kept hitting the market. So the word idrubuhunna, that's Yusuf Thaqalain mentioned, meant to be meeting. Hit with his finance, hit with his health, hit with his mouth, but hit with the physical. That's very, you're narrowing down the name of the meaning of the word. But it is that lifestyle. They have to both make sure they're praying. Style. I brought this hadith that teach your children to love your Prophet and his family and read the Quran. Another one which reported by couples stop loving each other, that came 18 and 12. Again, there's a hadith that do not hate wife and vice versa. Because if you hate one of her characters, try to highlight another characters. And that's what we teach when we do that cognitive behavior therapy. We try to teach people to highlight the advantage of the other partner. Right, she has this problem, but she has thousands of good things. And you could see one make a mistake, everybody can say, but he's done all these, he's forgotten all of it. He's done this in the school, done this in the community, done this in people just forget everything and highlight one. So couples stop loving each other. If the woman thinks that the husband no longer loving her, try to bring things into reconciliation and bring people from her family and his family. Don't leave it to the end till there's no you return. So that's the advice from the Quran for this couple stop loving each other. Couples stop loving each other also in the Quran, that Allah make the love. So go to Allah and ask him that, especially when the husband or disagreement or they were hard against each other, just Allah repair the problem between wife. It works. Obviously with Allah. Again, the same ayah, you might hate something, there's lots of goodness in it, and you might love something that's shar for you, is bad for you. Again, another hadith, Ayyub, he wanted to divorce Ayyub, and the Prophet ﷺ said that wasn't good things. She didn't deserve the divorce. So, but he divorced her. Abu Ayyub divorced Ayyub, but the Prophet ﷺ didn't like it. But it does happen. It's not the end of the world that your wife no longer loves you or your husband doesn't love you anymore.
Can I say something? I think the thing about stopping loving the other person. I mean, love is something that you can actually on rekindling, and I think a lot of times because the nature of the way we live in our modern day lives is that people are just autopilot all the time. And now, particularly when you have many children, it becomes more about looking after the children, isn't it? Like you just kind of meeting their needs because they don't need. So this is the foundational thing, isn't it? That when you at some stage the sexual chemistry builds away, and then how do you actively make it a priority to do something? And the way love is in the first year of marriage, it has to look very differently when you're into. So that's about how are you cultivating that, and how are you investing in each other. So I think that there needs to be some ritual every single week, 2 times a week. That's your thing, and it's not just always about just doing one or whatever. It's about connecting emotionally, looking after each other, making each other showing respect, or taking another person's pursuit, or doing something together, like walking together, watching TV together, without the children. Without the children. Because then when you talk with the children, it's a family thing, so you just both focus on being mom and dad. So I definitely feel that it's a mandatory thing. When you do your family, whatever, care, there needs to be some time that you need to devote to each other. And that's how you feel love. But it's not the love that you had in the first year, it will look slightly different. But you have to, I honestly feel that there is always a hope, unless something else to get, but most people can feel love, and it's good love, inshallah. Sorry.
Yeah, next one, incompatibility in spending. Again, similar, 18%, 19%. And in the Quran, Allah said to give the relatives, the poor people, the homeless, their rights, but don't overspend. So overspending is what in the Quran, and shouldn't let people, members, family waste the money. Could be the husband money or wife or both. And if they have their own money, you still have to guard them to spending it wisely and correctly, and let them enjoy their money. So don't deprive your wife from her own money, or deprive him sometimes from his money. Sometimes it's caused divorce. I mean, divorce. They told us this, but the survey only was done by divorced already. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, the wife of Abu Sufyan against the Prophet ﷺ, Hind, and said to her, take from his money what's enough for you and your children, according to the known norm in the country. So what's the norm? You take from that money. And the Prophet ﷺ said, lack of commitments, again reported more by women. And I can imagine that happen, that he doesn't care about, what's the need of the house or the need of the. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who gives is better than the one who takes. And you start with people you are responsible for, your wife, your children, your family. And don't reach a stage when your wife says, feed me or divorce me. So the husband cannot run away from the commitments. Also, some men run away from commitments, but only 60%, here 24. 24 out of 50 is only not, because we didn't ask husband and wife to fill the survey. We left it. We don't know if it's or not. Another one, كفى بالمرء إثما أن يضيع من أو worst sin you could commit is to neglect your own relatives, your own people who are relying on you to feed them, to dress them, to provide the accommodation. Again, interference from spouse family. Now, Allah asks you to be good to your parents when they need you, but you cannot let your parents run your marriage or relationship between you and your husband. So they took it the other way around. Many Muslim family can't run my marriage. It's not. If you are old, your father is very old, and he's relying on you. Then you need to be good to him. But not when you get married, your father said, do this with you, bring her, let her live with us, and so came also. So to from family. And don't quote Ismail because you're not a prophet. Because Ibrahim came to Ismail and he asked his wife, and she cursed her husband. He wasn't feeding us, wasn't doing this, wasn't doing that. And so he said to her, let him change the footstep of his house. So Ismail understood that divorced her. And then Ibrahim came and the wife was praising the husband, and he's doing this, he's bringing this. And he said to him, keep your doorstep. So, but some people, some Muslim, even, I don't know if you know the story. Any of you know the story before? Yeah, that's from history. So this is a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Now, lack of commitments came from lack of communication came from more women and men. And how much the Prophet was communicating with his wives. Allah said in the Quran, you must mention what's being said in your houses from the Quran and wisdom and the Hadith. So how much the Prophet used to talk to them? A lot. Because Aisha on her own, she narrated 2210 came forth in Hadith. So how much was talking to Aisha in the house? The communication between the husband and wife. And so many of the wives of the Prophet narrated Hadith. And the lack of communication, that is a hadith that you shouldn't abandon your staff more than 3 nights. You meet each other and you don't talk. This one 10 to the right and the other one 10 to the left. It's hated by by Islam. Cultural differences. And the Prophet ﷺ, we mentioned that before, that you need to really look at her and see that yes, you can cope together. You can eat together, you can go out together, you can. So try to reduce the cultural differences. If it happened you married from another culture, otherwise you marry from a similar culture would be better for you. And the Prophet ﷺ was brought with a lady who her family married her to an old man, and she killed him. And so he said that, oh people, be mindful of Allah, fear Allah, let the man marry a woman who is similar to him, and to marry a man who is similar to her. And do not force your daughters to marry somebody who is really awful. Because I like what you like, they marry for the sake of the father, but then you end marrying somebody who is compatible with. It's not equal footing. And little or no pre-marital education. Both, even, and it doesn't seem to have it in Muslim community that they go and study and look into what's halal, what's haram, what to expect from the marriage and how to succeed in the marriage. I wanted to keep chicks in my life, and when I was a teenager, I went and bought a book about it. You have to feed them, what to do, and I was putting water to make green and glittering, and they were drinking a lot. Keep the light at night, they eat them. I managed to get them 1 kilogram in 40 days. I made money, but I had to buy the book and follow the book. Nobody go and buy books. I gave my children, I think, the book Men from Mars, Women from Venus, and that's a good book you can read. And How to Win Friends, Influence People, that's also a good book. Little or no, there's a long advice from my mother to her daughter. I don't think we have time to take you through. It's beautiful advice. When you go to your husband, when he look at things, it could be that awful. You shouldn't smell things. There's a lot of good advice. We'll probably send it to you. Little or premarital. Story of Umama bint al-Harith, again another story, but also a long story, and she managed to get her husband to do what she wants in the nicest way. Do you know the story of that lady? A story, she married, she's very famous, he was very rich and very famous, and he married her, he wanted to have an intimate relationship with her family's home, and then outside, and then she managed to solve a fight between the two tribes with her wisdom before he slept with her the first time. And she is really very clever. Personal problems, 11 and 5. Back to they're two separate people, two different personalities, and she might have something which probably you don't have, and that should be highlighted before you get married to her. But after that, there are some differences. As we said, you might like something, you might hate something else, but you need to cope. But that was a cause, a small cause, was health problem, only reported by 4 men. No women reported health problem, but it should have been declared. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam married a lady. They hidden from her that she had leprosy, and he divorced her on the night, sent her back, because that's cheating. She had an illness which could be transmitted with long exposure. After 6 months, yeah, and he divorced her on the wedding night. When he saw the disease, he divorced her. Domestic violence, again, we went through this hadith. You should never hit the face. You should never tell her she's ugly or whatever, and do not abandon her outside the house. Lack of support from family. 7 and 3 reported from men and 3 from the women, and obviously you can't control your own mom and dad. They might or might not support you, but had more right than anybody else. We went through the hadith that should be taking care of your own immediate family. Age differences. We went through the hadith with Umar ibn Khattab, and she killed her very old husband. And the Prophet ﷺ said, so marry the one who could have children. Both. If the husband is older, he might not have children. The wife too old, they might not have children. So be careful when you get married. That if you want children, you have to marry somebody similar age, otherwise there will be. Infidelity, or extramarital affair reported more by men, 4 times more than men. In Islam, also for that, instead of living with the morbid hate and paranoia and things, that if she is 100% sure that he committed adultery, they have the ruling of mula'ana. She make an oath by Allah Azza wa Jal 4 times that he was, or vice versa. He make an oath that she was, and then they're forced to divorce, because you can't live with a paranoid wife or paranoid. I've seen a patient, his wife, he claimed she cheated him in the Second World War, and I saw him in 2010. So for 50 years, never forgot it. And he kept torturing us, I can imagine, over years. And vice versa. Vice versa. I mean, it's the end of the best answer actually is divorce. In psychiatry, when you see over jealousy and you can't treat it, you give a lot of medication and then go back to square one, 2, 3 years go back. In Islam, mula'ana, 4 times and separate them. We invited one of my friends. He was a doctor, and his wife was a doctor. She became extremely paranoid, and everything they come with a matchbox, and you see this hair? It's not my hair. and one of his traitors, he said, this guy, my wife always would pass the house to look at her. The same guy passing the house to look at her. A white van. How many white van passes the house? So
that's a mental health thing, though.
Yeah. Morbid jealousy we're talking about.
Yeah.
It doesn't develop morbid jealousy, sorted that different. But we become like, she's Adam and she live with somebody cheating you, and you are always in your mind then. Another one reported it was forced marriage. In Islam, it's haram, you can't. And the woman complained to the Prophet ﷺ, and if she gets married, she has to be agreeing to marry. And if she keep quiet, it's agreement as well. Mazhab al-Maliki, if she speaks, it's taken as no. She has to be quiet. If she speaks, they don't do the marriage. Hanafi, Shafi'i, and Hanbali, she talk or she quiet, whatever. But Maliki, because we had a Maliki married downstairs, and we said to her, look, if you speak, he is from Morocco, we will take it as no. But it must be asked, not forced. And the woman, her father married her against her will, and the Prophet ﷺ revoked the marriage. He cancelled it. Lack of sexual intercourse also is more reported by women than men. You need to have education, because men could become impotent or have difficulty with performing from the age of 40, 45. You need to be aware of it. When you marry somebody who's 40 and you're already 20, after 5 years you will stop. So where will you go? So this is knowledge, has to be. This is why we don't advise. So it has to be, if he's unable, he has to declare it, and he's sometimes given a year to perform. lack of sexual intercourse again, he will be rewarded also, encouraged. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, imagine if he committed adultery with it. Wouldn't he be? Yes, but if he sleep with his wife, he will be rewarded for it.
Can I say with that, obviously what you're saying is absolutely right. It could be a thing depending on where you are. There are so many psychological issues for men, whether it's stress or whether it's money problems.
Yeah. This is why you need knowledge. You need knowledge. What happened? What problems with them? Yeah. I mean, my own first he was my age, but he married for me. First marriage is that he couldn't perform. Then the second marriage was okay. But what happened? He was 20. Yeah, I came across a woman was saying that, and just to avoid. And you look and say she was abused as a child. She couldn't be a wife. Again, is even worse if he uses, like the Prophet never hit anyone, but more women complained against it. Abandonment by the spouse, more women only allowed for 4 months. If not, either have to come back or divorce. So this is also listed in the Quran and in the Hadith, and this is the ayah in Azam al-Talaq. Got married too young. Again, in the Quran, حتى إذا بلغوا the maturity to be able to marry is the age. It shouldn't be married young. It depends here what she meant by a young, because 3 women reported that and 1 man reported he got married. I think he had no knowledge, probably. He had very little knowledge. Living in a spouse's family home, a problem reported by women, and we've never done it myself with my wife. And it was time has to be discussed before the marriage. Polygamy reported by only 1 man. That he married another one, no, the man reported polygamy. So when somebody mentioned polygamy before, but it wasn't a reason for divorce, probably because they are more happier or more. The guy is a story. A guy was sleeping in, and his friend, why are you sleeping in? I said, I have a beautiful wife and this and that, and she has a sister. I forgot the story now. But anyway, do you know the 2 in the mosque? Anyway, no, he said, I'm married to 2 wives. I'm really happy. I'm really enjoying my whatever. And then, is that true? He said, yes. And he went and married a second wife. So the boss started making his life hell. So he came to the mosque. And he told the guy, he said, why you advise me wrongly? He said, I want somebody to eat with me. So that didn't come as a problem from those who reported that to us. Too much sexual demand came from 1 man and 1 woman. Also, Umar ibn Khattab was walking in the street and he heard a woman saying, تطاول هذا الليل وسود جانبه وأرقني الخليل ألاعبه. That the night is too long and they have no lover to enjoy the husband, to enjoy the life with him. And if I wasn't afraid of Allah Azza wa Jal, I would have had anybody to sleep with me. So Umar ibn Khattab went straight to his daughter Hafsa. He said, how long the wife could stand having no husband around? She said 4 months. Then he then banned the soldiers to be away for more than 4 months. He made it a law that no one should be away for more than 4 months because the wife needed the husband there. And vice versa. If the husband wants to sleep with the wife, has to accept even if she is cooking. Too much suspicious is in the Quran. Avoid being too much suspicious. Video gaming came a problem. Your wife could leave you. Gambling came as a problem. All reported from women. And alcohol came as a problem, reported by women as well. This also reported by women when the husband and bisexual or homosexual. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Drug came as well. Right, okay. I'll leave to Sister Abida. I'm going downstairs. And if we discuss things, I'll come back.
Right. So any questions, any thoughts? What we discussed before?
I was thinking about this term obedience. What the other place I use that term is with parents.
Yeah.
But we don't mind using it with parents because we understand that. Your parents, we don't see what that means. And maybe it means that when parents ask you to do something, you don't make a big deal out of it. They say something, you don't make a big deal out of it. Let the parents, let them listen to it. Maybe it's trying to discourage argumentation. So, for instance, it's not a bit.
something to argue about. And the same with when it comes to men in a different way. So maybe it's trying to discourage conflict.
Maybe that's a fair point. I'm just wondering with the weekends as to why do we feel that there are negative connotations? Why do we think?
So we're having too much, and I think we have to look at the viewers they take.
Yeah.
I think it's so like you said, younger generation, yeah, it's all equal, but then you understand what you need. I think that's what you said as well. It's not torn, but when you say to parents, that's very understand.
Yeah,
Our
you're
parents
right.
understand you, it's a given. Then somebody else will know. But when it comes to your house, it goes to the point, and maybe it's the whole thing where I'm working as well. They get to let people and bring their money in, and they want you to do this. But do you see what I mean? That it's not that interesting, but it comes to that in your own mind or how you take that word. You know what it actually means. And actually to and then I'm actually or maybe a couple of certain sides. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's about balancing it. Yeah.
Putting in the whole picture and satisfy the balance the relationship.
And I suppose, this whole concept of servitude, serving somebody, it depends where it's coming from. If it's something that you actually want to serve, you want to obey, you want to submit, it comes from a good place, isn't it? But I suppose if the dynamic of the relationship is such that you don't have self-esteem and the other person makes you feel less than or whatever, then it feels oppressive. So I think we have to understand what's happening underneath. How are we making the other person feel? Do they feel okay? So I know Islamically we look at Aisha radiallahu anha's personality, and I'm just thinking about that. We know by temperament she was feisty and the way she was, that was who she was. And the Prophet ﷺ accepted that. He never reprimanded her for that or made her feel less than or whatever. And the same goes for men. Some of them have different temperaments or whatever. It's about making sure that we have can I go something that we were discussing earlier about napping about
I've changed both my sons and daughters. I've changed my daughter. I've given her baths. I've given her everything. Like
I think it's really different when you have a child as well. I think I know a lot of husbands. I know husbands but they have children, and that one is different, and they're happily doing it. It's not like a chore. They're happily doing it because there's that connection.
Yeah, that's the point. And my children, Ubadah, Talha, and Marwan, they're quite happy to do it. And my wife cannot understand where this happiness came from.
I think my mom.
They're not copying me.
Well, yeah.
They're not copying me. They're just happy to do it. And my wife, your father never did it.
I think my mum's point is not that we don't, like I've changed my daughter's nappies, I've cleaned her vomit. It's not an issue of that. It's an issue of you're getting your daughter used to
it's
a
male
concept, seeing it.
Yeah.
See, that's where it's coming from. Rather than